Good day and thank you for joining CivilNet. We're in Artsakh, Nagorno Karabakh, in Stepanakert, the capital. Tomorrow is the 25th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence of Artsakh, Nagorno Karabakh, and we're here doing a series of stories about the area. And in one of the villages, while we were out doing our stories, we met Chris Bohjalian, famous novelist, the writer of 18 novels, winner of various prizes. I understand you have one more today.
I do. The President's Medal, Nagorno Karabakh.
Chris, it was very interesting and surprising at the same time running into you, watching you take notes, do interviews, take the situation in, and really hours away from Stepanakert on the border villages. So what brings you here? What's happening? What were all those questions and inquiries for?
My most recent novel, The Guest Room, features a character named Anahit. Though the novel is set in New York and Moscow and Yerevan, Anahit is the daughter of a hero of the Nagorno Karabakh War for Independence. While I was researching Anahit and her backstory, I grew more and more interested in this remarkable country. And so I decided it was about darn time to get here, meet some of the people, see the landscape firsthand.
And I saw you interviewing people from Syria. How is it changing your novel so far? Do you already see the changes that are going to come about and it's going to happen? Where is it going
Well,
now?
actually, The Guest Room was published this year. So any research I'm doing right now isn't for The Guest Room, but perhaps for another novel or for other magazine and newspaper articles. The reality is that the United States knows virtually nothing about Nagorno Karabakh. I would wager that most of my readers in Indiana or Florida or Vermont couldn't find Nagorno Karabakh on a map. So I'm hoping to use my bully pulpit as a novelist and as a journalist to write about Nagorno Karabakh and educate Americans to this country. The reality is that this country shares so much with the United States, not merely a people's right to self-determination, but, well, I live in a state called Vermont, and more than half of our roads are dirt. So I felt right at home here.
Oh, and well, it's your first time here in Nagorno-Karabakh. I was just asking you. So how did you how you imagined it, and what the reality is? Is there a clash? What are your impressions?
You know, the few people, and there are few, who've been both to Vermont and Nagorno Karabakh, said to me, it is every bit as beautiful as Vermont. Well, they were mistaken. It's more beautiful than Vermont. And I love Vermont so very, very much. But the topography here is positively epic. It's magisterial, the sweeping valleys, the distant mountains, the lush foliage, the arid plains. It has it all in such a small piece of geography.
How about the human stories? Because the more you spend time here, the more you talk with people, all these human stories. And my recent discovery, and I've been to Karabakh 3 times this year, was the Syrian Armenians and the Lebanese Armenians who are here. So there's a considerable amount, and this is changing not only mentality, work ethics here, it's changing a lot, I think, slowly but surely. What was your discovery on the human story level, on that level?
The discovery is so important for the United States, because right now in the United States, refugee is a dirty word. Immigrant is a dirty word. The United States has now taken in a grand total of 10,000 Syrian refugees. That's all. In the wake of the Armenian genocide, we took in at least 125,000. So one of the very, very first posts I placed on the social networks, and I might write more about this gentleman, is a Syrian-Armenian physician who was nearly beheaded just outside of Kamlishi. Nearly beheaded. Why? Because he would not renounce his faith. He was a Christian Armenian, and that's what mattered to him. Well, now he has found a home in Nagorno Karabakh with his 3 daughters, and that, for me, is the face of a refugee. And that's what I want to share with North America, that Nagorno Karabakh is welcoming these individuals and they are helping to build this wonderful country.
And well, your background as a journalist and a novelist, how are this fact and fiction going to come together in this case?
You know, there's a great novelist named Ann Patchett. Ann lives in the United States. She just published a new book. And in an essay she wrote about this book, she said the following: "It's all made up and it's all true." The reality is that fiction allows us to access a deeper truth. And if I were to write a novel set in Nagorno Karabakh, my sense is, of course, the characters would all be made up. But I hope they would be inspired by the remarkable women and men and children that I've met here and would lead to a deeper truth and a universal story.
What would your advice be to local writers, be it in Artsakh or Armenia? Because their stories count as well, however the readership is not what they would wish for. What would your advice to them be?
Well, you know, it's an open-ended question. First of all, there are the logistics of it in terms of publishing platforms. And
language.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Language as well.
Well, yes, and that's the other important issue. The fact is, if you are writing in Armenian, if you are writing in a Karabakh dialect, it's going to be very, very hard to find an international platform until you're translated into French or Russian or English. So the first thing, and this sounds so horrible, it sounds so Western, hegemonic, but it's a reality of the marketplace. For many of these writers, the first thing they need to do is to figure out how to get their magnificent poetry and their magnificent story translated into languages with a dramatically larger reading audience. That point noted, one of the gifts of the digital age is the way that the internet can allow you all sorts of publishing opportunities to get your stories out there, and in some cases, unexpectedly, beautifully translated.
So, with your upcoming novel and with the Sandcastle girls, when you're talking about Armenian subject matter and Armenian, coming from an Armenian place within you and writing in English, how does the combination work for you? Do you struggle with that? Do you feel that your thoughts and language are not working together, contrasting, or you feel like you're adding something, they're complementing each other?
You know, I view myself as an infinitely less talented William Saroyan. I do not have his talent, I have only his hairline. But the thing that Saroyan did was he wrote stories of universal value. He wrote stories about everyday people doing everyday things. And I think that whether you are a writer in Karabakh, whether you are in Yerevan, Paris, or New York City, if you are of Armenian descent, the most important thing you can do is write really powerful, interesting stories that just maybe have real, everyday Armenians in them, whether they're Armenians from Syria, Karabakh, Armenia, or Detroit, Michigan.
Well, your arrival here is very simple. It was Saroyan's birthday yesterday, and tomorrow is Karabakh's Independence Day. Do you have plans for tomorrow? And again, congratulations for your medal.
Thank you. Yes, one of the unexpected blessings of this visit is this. This is the President's Medal. I had no idea this was coming. It is completely undeserved. Every woman and man who received one is infinitely more worthy than I, but I love it. I absolutely love it. It's beautiful and it means so very much to me. So tomorrow on Independence Day, I will certainly watch the parades, I will certainly walk to the memorial, and I will certainly bask in the indomitable, indefatigable, courageous will of the Karabakh people.
Today, one last question. Today we were visiting, we were working on a story, and one of the things that our host said was that there were two fights. The first one we won, and the other one is to make use of this land, which we're losing. where is your enthusiasm level with this? Are we losing that second battle? Are we losing some domestic battle here?
The people of Nagorno Karabakh will win. They will win the territorial battle. They will win the peace. But it has become, despite the war in April, a war of attrition. All of a sudden, Azerbaijan is dramatically wealthier than 25 years ago. The geopolitical realities of trying to exist unrecognized are hard. Really, really hard. So yes, the task now for Karabakh is to win the peace and to win the future. And it is a struggle on a human rights level. It is a struggle on a cultural level. In the last quarter century, the battle has in some ways become a war of attrition, despite the unprovoked Azeri attack in April. What I mean by a war of attrition is that Azerbaijan, in the last 25 years, has filled its oil coffers dramatically. We are still struggling to get international recognition. And it is no small task to win the peace without international recognition. How do you build the roads? How do you build the economy? How do you get investment? How do you get the fields filled with pomegranates and barley and hay? But the people that I have met are courageous and indomitable and inspiring. And my firm belief is that Nagorno Karabakh won the war, and now it will eventually win the peace.
Right, thank you very much. Enjoy tomorrow's celebration.
I will.
So will we. And we also thank the viewers for joining us. Stay with CivilNet for more stories from Karabakh and Armenia.